Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm Shauna from Gluten-Free Girl and the Chef. And we're here to show you at our local grocery store a few things about how to shop for Thanksgiving dinner, gluten-free. So we're really lucky. Our grocery store is ridiculously well stocked with great food. You may not have this, but some grocery stores do have freezer sections full of gluten-free food. Breads, English muffins, hamburger buns, awesome. However, please double check and make sure when you grab something, here's a gluten-free English muffin, you may grab right next to it, there's a spelt muffin. Spelt is not gluten-free. That happens all the time. You may arrive at a house and your grandmother or aunt says, hey, I got this great bread for you. The person at the market said it was gluten-free. Spelt is not gluten-free. Nope. Double check. You might even find, as we have here, a gluten-free section. And they might have gluten-free bread.
Hamburger buns?
Yeah. If you don't want to bake your own sandwich bread for stuffing, you could certainly buy a gluten-free bread. The great thing about gluten-free bread for stuffing is stale is better. And if it's dense and sort of hard, it works for stuffing. And if you don't have gluten-free bread, say you go to the aisle and the bread's all sold out because it's right before Thanksgiving, you could easily use hamburger buns. They're bread, it's the same recipe.
It'll work. All you gotta do is cube it up.
Yeah, just cube it up, toast it, it's ready to go. So of course, if you've never made gravy, maybe you've only done this before, you've had the packets. But the problem is that these all contain wheat. They use regular flour, and they actually don't taste as good as real gravy anyway. So we're gonna show you how to make gravy so much easier than you think. Be aware that anything on this aisle essentially is going to have wheat in it, whether it is in a jar or in a packet or a can, it's all going to contain gluten. And if you are gluten-free, you probably know that already, but if you are making Thanksgiving dinner for a family member, a loved one, you may not think of it here. So stay away from this aisle. So some of you might be tempted to buy something like this, a lovely brown liquid that could make your gravy look brown and rich and lovely and full of flavor. Some of these contain gluten. In fact, this one says it contains wheat gluten, wheat, and wheat bran. Triple effect.
Wow, that's a trifecta for sending you to the bathroom.
Don't buy this. So if you're trying to feed someone who has celiac, who therefore has to be very careful not to get any gluten, you have to think on this level. This is Bob's Red Mill potato flakes. We love Bob's Red Mill. They're great. Bob's Red Mill has two factories. One is a gluten-free factory, and the other has gluten-containing ingredients. These potato flakes are made in the regular gluten factory, so they could make someone sick who has celiac. Don't buy these for your Thanksgiving dinner for someone who's celiac.
These, on the other hand, are gluten-free. It says right there. But you know what? Making your own mashed potatoes is much better.
Definitely. We believe that this is stuff in the can is gluten-free. It's not certified gluten-free. You should definitely call the company and make sure before you use it to feed any of your loved ones.
And the nice thing is nowadays, it has the website right here. You can Google it right there if you have your phone with you. And always look at the ingredients. That's the most important thing.
If you're lucky, you shop at a store that does this. More and more stores are starting to put gluten-free labels on the shelves, so you know, in a quick eye glance, boom, I can buy that one. Most turkeys, of course, are gluten-free. You probably would never suspect that a turkey could contain gluten, but you'll find that some of the less expensive turkeys will have fillers, and those fillers often contain gluten. So be sure to double check that your turkey does not have gluten in it. So luckily, cheese is generally gluten-free. A life without cheese. Of course, those of you who are dairy-free, that's a different story. But the great news is that blue cheese is actually gluten-free. For many years, it was believed that blue cheese had gluten because it started from a bread mold. And it turns out, after much research, no gluten in the final product. So eat all the blue cheese you like.
You have.
Yeah, I do. Double check and make sure with anything that's processed, that's not the actual cheese. So cheese spreads. This one actually says gluten-free on it, which is great. But please double check if you're going to buy a cheese spread for your guests. So here we are in the bulk aisle, and it's very tempting to buy products and ingredients here because of course it's less expensive, but you really have to be careful if you're gluten-free or feeding a gluten-free person. Because take a look at this. Here is gluten-free potato starch. It even says next to it, gluten-free. And it is right next to white pastry flour, which is full of wheat. It's very easy for kids to come along, go back and forth. It's very easy for someone in a rush to just grab this scooper and then use it in the one next to it, and then you're getting sick from gluten-free potato starch. Now there is an exception. If you look up here, you see bins that are self-contained, and there's only one thing, and then underneath it you could just pull it out, and this would be gluten-free. So anything that's in these self-contained units I will buy if I know it's gluten-free. Down here, not at all. So here we are in the produce section, and the produce section is a gluten-free girl's best friend. All fruits and vegetables are gluten-free. So especially when it comes to Thanksgiving, you're going to want Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, broccoli, carrots, anything you can roast, essentially. So this is a great place to be. However, be careful. Sometimes in produce sections, they'll slip something like this in. This is stuffed greeny mushrooms with feta cheese, but of course there are breadcrumbs in there, so this contains wheat. If you're in the produce section, you still have to look and make sure. It's very easy to think, this is a great app, I'll just grab it, stick it in the broiler, I don't have to do any work. Guess what? This is going to make your guests sick. So it's very convenient and easy. It used to be to buy these kinds of dinner rolls, crescent rolls, but of course these all contain gluten. And we're going to show you how to make your own dinner rolls, so you don't need these anyway. It's Thanksgiving. You're going to need butter. Butter is good.
Butter, very good.
You're going to make mashed potatoes. You're going to make pie. You're going to make all kinds of lovely, yummy, buttery things. Butter, thank goodness, is gluten-free. And for those of you who have to be dairy-free, there are a number of really great dairy-free spreads that are also gluten-free. Earth Balance, coconut spread, all of these gluten-free. So enjoy.
Some of you like to substitute your yogurt for your sour cream. Double check it, because you never know what the big brands like to stretch it out as much as possible. And what are they going to stretch it out with and make it last longer? Wheat.
Fillers.
So always double check. Look at everything.
If you like to drink alcohol, there are actually now a number of really good gluten-free beers on the market. And of course, it depends on your area. Here in the Seattle area, we have a ton of them. But check at your grocery store and see if maybe you can offer a gluten-free beer to one of your guests.
It would make somebody very, very happy.
Very happy. A good apple cider should be gluten-free. This one says our ciders are naturally gluten-free. Again, double check, but generally this is a great option for your gluten-free guests. So maybe you want a scoop of vanilla ice cream on top of your hot apple pie. Sounds good to me. You would never think that ice cream could contain gluten, right? Most of it does not. However, you definitely need to double check the labels. Here's one of vanilla ice cream and allergen information. This product contains milk. It's also made on equipment that makes products containing wheat, as well as eggs, sulfites, etc. That doesn't necessarily mean it contains gluten. Call the factory and find out, or call the company and find out. But I would probably not buy this ice cream. I would buy another brand that I know is gluten-free. So find your favorites.
So if you're visiting someone's house, go through the refrigerator or freezer.
It's fun. So you're probably going to want crackers when you have your Thanksgiving meal for the spreads, the hummus, and the appetizers you might make. Lovely dips. There are good gluten-free crackers on the market. In fact, this entire aisle is gluten-free.
Entire section, not the aisle.
Entire shelf is gluten-free crackers. I happen to really like the tamari flavored crackers, but they're probably not right for Thanksgiving. Again, double check to make sure, because here we have gluten-free crackers right on top of gluten crackers. So just read the labels, but gluten-free crackers are white. So we're going to show you how to make your own pie dough, and it's really pretty easy. But if you're rushed and it's the night before Thanksgiving and you forgot pie, you can buy some gluten-free ginger snap cookies. I kind of love these, actually.
Kind of?
I really love these. And what's great about them is that you can just throw these in the food processor, crush them up into little bits, and then add some butter. And what else would you add?
Pack in. Yeah. I'd call it good.
Pack it into a pie plate, and that is a pie crust. And I think a pumpkin pie with a ginger snap crust would be fantastic.
Can we make one?
Sure, why not? So it might be nice if you are hosting people for the Thanksgiving weekend to have some gluten-free granola on hand. You could make it, of course, but do you want to add that to the gargantuan list of things to make? There are a number of good gluten-free granolas that we like quite a bit. But again, make sure you've got granola with gluten and granola without gluten next to each other. Here's the deal. Oats are naturally gluten-free. However, the way that they are processed, the way they're grown together next to wheat fields, transported in trucks with wheat, and made in the same factory, traditional regular oats are often cross-contaminated with gluten. So make sure that you get a gluten-free granola made with certified gluten-free oats. You may be hosting family for Thanksgiving weekend, and if you would like to have some gluten-free cereal available for your guests, friends, and loved ones, there are gluten-free cereals available. A wide array of them, actually. This is one of our favorites. Why would you not want crispy brown rice cereal? And this one is gluten-free. And again, you need to look for the gluten-free. Oftentimes now you'll see companies that make gluten-free cereal also make gluten cereal. So don't be fooled by a quick glance at the box. Make sure you grab the one that says gluten-free. Also, cereal can be handy if you want to make some crisp. You know, pie may seem intimidating to you, or maybe you've made a pie with a regular gluten crust and you want to have a gluten-free crisp on the side for those guests. These are cornflakes. They work really well. There are other cereals on the market that are also good. Anything that is a kind of a flake with some crunch, you can throw it in with the flour and the butter and make a gluten-free crisp.
Just double check.
You may not think that this is the aisle we need to talk about for Thanksgiving with all of the lovely vitamins and minerals and medicines. However, these are psyllium husks. Psyllium husks, I love it. It says colon cleanser. It's better than that. It's actually what you'll need for baking sandwich bread, cornbread, anything you'll need for the stuffings, even maybe the pie. So be sure to check out this aisle for psyllium husk. So here's my favorite aisle of the grocery store, the baking aisle. And especially when it's Thanksgiving, you're going to want to do some baking. We are, again, ridiculously lucky at our grocery store because all of these flours are here. But I want you to be sure to notice how the gluten-free flours right here are next to the gluten flours.
Or the gluten flours here in the Bob's Red Mill mix, because some of them have gluten in them and they won't say. This says it's gluten-free.
What you should know, and this is for Bob's Red Mill, but it's a handy symbol for anything, the Bob's Red Mill has a grain of wheat with a big red mark through it. That's the one you want. It means it's made in the gluten-free factory at Bob's. There are also other brands. Here we have a local brand of gluten-free breads, gluten-free cornbread. So if you want to make cornbread stuffing, there are now gluten-free cornbread mixes instead of having to make it from scratch. You want to make sure that you enjoy your gluten-free baking and your Thanksgiving dinner. So just be sure to notice. Here's an all-purpose baking flour. Here is almond flour, which should be gluten-free, but here's rye flour next to barley flour, which is not gluten-free. Just double check.
When you think of Thanksgiving, what do you think about? The land of gluten stuffings. Some of them, they have some cornbread stuffings here. Look at the box. Just because it says cornbread, and it might think, ooh, that could be gluten-free.
Still wheat flour.
Always look at the box.
And I can't say it enough, this is easy and convenient, and maybe you even grew up on it, but you're not going to believe how much better stuffing made with real bread, made with your own hands, is better than anything in a box. So this all has gluten. Stay away. So here we are in the stock and broth aisle, and most of these should be gluten-free. So of course it's perfectly fine to buy stock instead of making your own.
Yes.
Especially if you're, jammed for time. Be aware though that some specialty items like this demi-glace, you may think, well, this is more gourmet, it's going to taste fantastic. Well, demi-glace is great, but traditionally
it's thickened with the roux, which is flour.
So you would not want to buy a demi-glace. Be sure you avoid that. And you can, of course, do your own taste tests as to which of these tastes the best. But certain brands will say gluten-free on those, and that's generally what gets me to try them, is if they are certified gluten-free. So if you're making any casseroles for Thanksgiving dinner, which can be delicious, of course, be aware that cream of mushroom, cream of chicken, any kind of cream of soup is going to contain wheat. That's a place you might not think, particularly if you are not the gluten-free person. Be aware this contains gluten. So this may seem a little daunting at first. There's a lot to think about, a lot to check, but that's true whenever you're making Thanksgiving dinner.
Or when you're just cooking in general and be gluten-free.
Exactly. So just take the time to go slowly through the store, double check all your labels, and in essence, always get whole foods. These squashes are always going to be gluten-free. And remember, Thanksgiving is about feeding people. I think that's why I like it the most of all of the holidays. It's not about presents or parades or galas. It's just about sitting down together at the table and eating and sharing a meal. So why not feed everybody safely? Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.